You'll start by making a slab by putting your chunk of clay between two of the paint sticks and using one of the longer wooden rollers that don't have handles on the end. You'll roll the clay lots of times, flipping it over and changing the direction repeatedly. This will help prevent getting your clay stuck to the board. And if you don't change direction, you'll end up with a very long, skinny piece of clay. My roller isn't touching the paint sticks yet. When it does touch the paint sticks all the way down, that's when I know I'm at the right thickness. These paint sticks, when they're taped together, are 1/4 inch thick, which is the same thickness that I want my clay. When my clay is all rolled out and the roller is touching the top of both paint sticks, I can then come in and smooth my clay using either the orange rib tool or my fingers, or both. Then I can flip it over and smooth out the other side. If you're using the rib tool to smooth, you might have to use your fingers to clean off the rib so it's not dragging extra clay through your smooth surface. At this point, you can start experimenting with textures, or you can use your template to mark where you're going to cut your clay. I'm just marking lightly with one of our wooden tools. Then I'm going to come back and cut it. You can cut it with a sharp pin tool or use one of the wooden knife tools. I'm using some extra clay to experiment with rolling different textures to see if I like the way that it looks. If I find something I like, I can go ahead and roll that into my clay slab. I'm experimenting with this long metal screw to see what kind of marks I can make with it. I noticed I can use the top of it to make interesting circle shapes with little X holes in them. I can also roll it on its side to make these long stripes. Remember that anything can become a texture tool in your clay, so be creative and think about what kind of marks you can experiment with. It's great to explore on a practice piece first, though, to make sure you actually like the way that it looks. I decided that these textures would go on the outside of my bowl, so I flipped over my slab, smoothed out the inside a little bit, and gently started placing the slab into the bowl. This slab is bigger than my bowl, so I had to kind of go slowly and gently press and push it down. If I push it all down at once, it's not going to go in evenly. And you'll notice that the edges are really crinkling a lot as they go into the bowl. I found that a lightly wetted sponge helped me to push it down into the bottom of the bowl, making sure I'm compressing that clay and getting it smooth. I don't want a lot of water on my sponge because I don't want this slab to get really wet and slobbery. I did my best to slowly go around the edge of the bowl and adjust those crinkles as I wanted them, pushing them into the surface of the bowl. I used a sponge to smooth out some cracks that I noticed. I used a pin tool to cut the edge of the clay where it was going past the edge of my bowl shape. Be really careful when you're doing this, especially if you're using a pin tool. It's really sharp and you can hurt yourself. Then I used a finger with just a little water on it to smooth out the edges and make them the way I wanted them. And I also put some more textures into my bowl using a shell and a spork. If you don't like the look of the crinkly or rippled edges, I recommend using one of the 10-inch templates that we have in class. You can use the same process to gently push your slab down into the bowl, remembering to go slowly and evenly so that it's not getting pushed down more in one place than another. The edges will be crinkly at first, but you can use a lightly damp sponge to smooth out the edges and your fingers to push the edges closer to the bowl. If you get any crinkles, you can come back in later with your orange rib tool and smooth those out. I found a safer way to cut off the edges of my clay by resting the pin tool against the top of the white bowl and then rotating the bowl itself. This feels much safer.